What are you staring at me for? He says. What is it? He says and lays down his fork. Was I staring? I say, I shake my head. The telephone rings. Don't ask where it, he says. It might be your mother, I say. Watch and see, he says. I pick up the receiver and listen. My husband stopped eating. What did I tell you? He says when I hung up. He starts to eat again. Then threw his napkin on his plate. He says, "God damn it. Why can't people mind their own business? Tell me what I did wrong and I listen." I wasn't the only man there. So much water so close to home, Raymond Carver. Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Andrea Olivares and I will talk about the strangeness. According to Oxford's Learning Dictionary, strangeness is the fact of being unusual or surprising, especially in a way that is difficult to understand. Strangeness is also the presence of singularity, exceptionality, that which makes us feel different from what we are used to. In relation to literature, the author George Saunders in his writing, as seen in The Pond in the Rain, expressed that if a writer introduces a strange event, then let the fictive world respond to that event. What we're really learning about is what we might call the fictive world psychological physics, thus explaining to us that an strange event is not what impacts the story, but how the world reacts to this event. The author I highlight in this video is Raymond Carver, American writer and poet. Raymond Carver was one of the most important Anglo-Saxon short story writers of the 20th century, considered one of the greatest exponents of the minimalism and the dirty realism. The story we will analyze today by Raymond Carver is So Much Water So Close to Home. So Much Water So Close to Home is a story written by Raymond Carver that shows the strain of Claire and Stuart's marriage after a disturbing and traumatic event. Stuart, along with his friend, finds the body of a woman in a river during a trip. Instead of immediately reporting it, they go ahead with their excursion, which generated a bit of uneasiness in Claire due to the man's behavior. As the story progresses, Claire is confronted with herself, her husband's indifference and sensitivity, and in a sense of strangeness about the situation. Now, let's get to know our fragments. The first one is, why can't people mind their own business? Tell me what I did wrong, and I listened. I wasn't the only man there. Stuart doesn't assume responsibility for the event, but deflects blame and justifies himself by pointing out that other people were present. Instead of asserting that his behavior was questionable, Stuart perceived the criticism as an intrusion into his private life. And Stuart isn't really seeking to understand his mistake, but rather to defend himself. He feels pushed into a corner. The second one is the next morning they cooked breakfast, drank coffee, and drank whiskey, and then split up to fish. That night they cooked fish, cooked potatoes, drank coffee, and drank whiskey. Then took their cooking things and eating things back down to the river and washed them where the girl was. It is disturbing that they wash their utensils in the same river where the corpse is. The men have integrated the presence of the dead into their routine and don't question it. Men repeat everyday action in such a disturbing context as if they were denied the seriousness of the situation. The next one is I look at the newspaper and turn it this way and that's on the table. Then I skid close and read what it says. The body has been identified, claimed, but it took some examining, some putting things into it, some cutting, some waiting, some measuring, some putting things back again, and see reading it. I sit for a long time holding the newspaper and thinking. Then I call up to get a shirt, the hairdressers. I sit under the dryer with a magazine on my lap and let Marnie do my nails. I am going to a funeral tomorrow. The newspaper described the corpse in a simple and technical way, as if it were not a human body, generating a dehumanization in a ready public. Also, despite processing the information she was reading, she was still indifferent and moved on as if it were trivial without provoking a reflection in her. Then I heard the pickout coming back. I locked the doors and rolled up the windows. You are right, the man says. He rattles on the glass. You okay? He leans his arm on the door and brings his face to the windows. I stare at him. I can't think what else to do. Is everything alright in there? How come you are locked up? I shake my hand. Roll down your windows. He shakes his hand and looks at the highway and then back to me. Roll it down now. Please, I say, I have to go. Open the door, he says as he isn't listening. You are going to shop there. He looks at my breath, my legs. I can tell that's what he's doing. Hey, sugar, he says. I'm just here to tell you so. Here, Claire is feeling in danger. Claire in Miller seeks safety and by security the car. She suddenly feels fear and distrust even before the man came near. Although Claire asks from the man politely to stop, he continues to insist, and she feels ignored, threatened, and uncomfortable. The man's behavior is inappropriate. He observes her in a sexual way, and despite speaking supposedly gentle, his behaviors, looks, gestures insinuate something different. Well, they got him, she says. Is that any consolation? They arrest him this morning. I heard it on the radio before I come. A boy right here in town. We moved a few steps down the hot sidewalk. People are staring cars. I put on my hand and hold on a parking mirror. Polished hood and polished fenders. My head swims. I say, they had friends. The killer. You can talk. In this fragment, the woman who gives the news about the capture of the murder is speaking in a almost insensitive manner. However, the concert continues despite the fact that the crime has been solved. Although she says nothing, Claire's body responds to the news. She isn't relieved, she is worried. Claire's sentence about the murder's friend suggests that violence continues and that murders can still be within society, that it is necessary to remain suspicious. The final one is, he says, I think I know what you need. He reaches an arm around my waist, and with his other hands he begins to unbutton my jacket, and then he goes on the bottom of my blouse. First things first, he says. He says something else, but I don't need to listen. I can hear a thing with so much water gone. That's right, I say, finishing the board myself, before Dean comes. Hurry. This fragment reveals Claire's emotional state in the face of everything that has happened. She is mentally upset, disturbed, but at the same time ignorant of her surroundings. Warren, this story also represents the strangeness and emotional distance between her and her husband, and even between her and herself. It is the obstacle that separates her from reality. The couple's sexuality is not born of the desire, but is also mechanized that is experienced automatically, without emotion or connection. Now, how can we use this story for learning English? In grammar, analysis of the present simple and past simple verb tense, rewrite sentence in different verb tense, and restructure sentence in affirmative, negative, and interrogative way. In listening, read the story with emphasis on intonation, rhythm, and pauses, prediction of upcoming events, taking into account the title and key words, analyzing and interpretation of dialogues of the story. With vocabulary, natural vocabulary relates to nature and daily activities and travel, search for new words, and rewriting sentence using synonyms. Finally, in reflection, analyzing of topics such as marriage and emotional isolation, interpretation of morality, and importance of communication in interpersonal relationships. Thanks for your attention.